Okay, night race, Qatar, we're done. We've been to Lusail. And this was interesting for a lot of reasons, not just with how it played out with the contenders, but also with talking points that have shot up post race and things like that. I think you know what I'm talking about. And so, as always, we are going to cover everything that happened in MotoGP into Fantasy MotoGP, All Japan Cup, Moto2 and Moto3. We're probably, just to mix it up, going to start with the children's race this week, Moto3. If you want to skip ahead, everything's chaptered below. If you don't care about Moto3, just skip ahead right now. Everything's down there. MotoGP will be later on. Now, I wanted to start with Moto3. And I've got to say, this week, I enjoyed all the racing. I thought the racing was really good. All the races were great, probably except for the sprint, to be fair. Let's crack the results up, because a bit late to record this. I did watch the races yesterday. It's currently Tuesday. But this was the most recent race I watched, so we'll start there. Angel Baqueras, the winner. It was a fantastic finish to the race. He's won it by, well, they almost dead heated over the line. It couldn't have been closer. 9,000th of a second separating him and Tayo Furusato. Again, within half a tenth of that, Yamanaka in third, and got Joel Kelso within a tenth as well of the lead in fourth. It could have gone almost any way, this. Although, tell me how you feel about it. I feel like it could have gone any way except for maybe a Kelso win, because whether it was because of the issue that Rueda had that sort of gapped him to the leaders or whatever, or however you feel about Kelso's approach to the end of races, it just looked like he probably was the one that wasn't going to win it, but he pulled the gap back right at the end and gave himself a chance. But Piqueras is always your likely winner in that situation. The kid's got a bit of something about him. I mean, he's not done like a lot of amazing stuff in Moto3 just yet, but you feel like it could be on the way. Now, this group was, I mean, the race was led at times by the likes of Kelso, Rueda and stuff like that. And they did try and break away as like a 4, I want to say, and then got reeled back in. They ended up as about a 7, and then lost riders towards the end. So I'm not entirely sure what happened to Rueda in the end anyway. You probably had him as your favourite, I think, going into those final few laps. Some sort of mechanical, which is very unlucky. It looked like. But again, this race had a bit of everything. I mean, all your classic storylines are there. Munoz struggling with etiquette once again at times. You had some drama at the front, like I said, with Rueda ending up not finishing the race. You had some guys coming up through the field, some guys dropping back. Bit of everything. 2 Japanese riders on the podium, which is nice to see. And then, I mean, your Joel Kelso story was there, where we see this from him, where, I mean, brilliant in America. Here, exceptional again, I thought. But he looked like he was maybe falling away a touch, even before the Rueda incident. Hung in there, but still wasn't able to show a wheel in the last few laps or get himself into that premium sort of, you want to be around second, third, going into that final lap or whatever. Just couldn't show a wheel to get himself from 4th, 5th into that position. And then when the Rueda incident happens, you've left yourself in a position where you can get affected by it because you're sitting in 5th. Now, I know it's not as easy as it looks, obviously, and I think maybe just didn't have the pace in the end. So that storyline was there. I mean, on Australia Watch, for my fellow Aussies out there, Jacob Ralston finished 14th. Now, he was as high as 9th, I want to say, in the closing laps and got beat up a little bit on the last lap. Interesting, because he started about, I want to say, on the back row, and was in the top 10 with maybe a lap to go. Now, this is a kid coming back from injury, so yeah, there's a bit there, you'd have to think. Really great ride from him to sort of be like, maybe he's had a struggling weekend, he's come back from injury, he's still getting up to speed, trying to get his match sharpness right, and gets into the race and does some bits. So fantastic there, but yeah, really fun race. Angel Piqueras is your winner. And interestingly, it leaves your championship standings with him a point ahead of Rueda now, with Rueda with a no score. Joel Kelso's gone to 3rd, and I'm really hoping he just needs to pick up a race win. He just needs to pick up a race win, and you can take him seriously in this title fight. Honestly, you can, because the pace is all there. The pace is there. Needs to get that win, and when he does, I don't know, maybe the floodgates open for him. Hopefully the floodgates open for him. I just would love to see him just be there or thereabouts, but even stay in the top 3 for the season. You know, top 3 or 4 would be incredible. Big miss this weekend for Bertelli, injured, so he's missed this one, and you have to think he's a title threat as well. So it's a big blow for him and that team. But Kelso's still flying the flag for him. Oh yeah, missed things like, I mean, double long lap, was it, for Carpe in that one as well? And where did he finish? 11th. Great. Long lap for Adrian Fernandez as well, I think, early in the race, but he didn't end up finishing anyway. But yeah, Carpe double long lap to finish 11th. Another really good ride in there. But yeah, this was fun. Great finish for this one, and everyone had a good time, except for Wader. Moto 2, this was really fun. I really enjoyed this. Again, stories throughout. Aron Canet botching the start and then coming back absolutely magnificently to win the race. Dennis Onchu finally showing a little bit in Moto 2. Is this real? Can we trust it? Is he going to be there or thereabouts again next week? Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It was promising to see him. He's only finished a second off the lead there in second place. Good ride. Manu Gonzalez taking advantage. Just need to finish this one in a good position. But again, seriously impressed as we look through the field. Daniel Gardo. Moreira 5th. Another really good ride for him. Barry Baltus putting in some fastest laps at times and had really strong pace throughout. Arenas was near the front for a while, but he's ended up dropping back to finish at the 9th. And then promising little cameos in there. David Alonso, Colin Vire. And I'm going to include Senna Aegis, despite the fact he's finished 14th. Vife started way down the field, so ended up, he was actually ahead of Alonso at one point and ended up a couple of positions back in 13th. Alonso finished 11th, around about where he started, I want to say. But these kids are finding their feet now. And no one finding their feet as well and as quickly as Daniel Gardo. It's just, I don't know, out of the three, right, did you have him even as the second most likely to take to it that quickly from Alonso, Vire, and him? Or Anatola of the four? Anatola probably struggling the most, at least this week. I know Vire's been struggling quite a bit. Gardo's left himself 4th in the World Championships on 36 points. Unreal. Fantastic start. Would he have even been expecting this? Probably not. Really fantastic start for him. Yeah, I wanted to mention Aegis because Senna there has ended up doing 3 long lap penalties and coming 14th. So I'm really quite impressed with that. I think his pace, I mean, we saw it in round 1, where his podium pace. Him, I mean, even they made mistakes in America, that team, on tyre selection. And then I don't know what happened. I can't remember. I'm trying to think back to round 2 now. He's finished 13th there. I can't remember what happened in that one, Argentina. But basically, he's had a couple of rounds where he's been a bit all at sea. You know, like I said, in America, probably wasn't really his fault. They made a bad call on tyres. Maybe it was his fault. I don't know who made the call, but they made a mistake. And whilst a chaotic race has ended up with him at the bottom end of the points, I think pace-wise, you can look at it and go, look, that's probably going to have him in the top 5. So not panic stations there for Senna. I think he's looking strong, and I think they'll take more positives from that than the negatives because he's messed up a long lap. He's false started. He's got a double long lap. He's messed one of them up, so he's had to redo it. Look, just don't make those 2 mistakes. And if you make the first one, don't make the second one, and you're in a decent position. I mean, he's finished 13 seconds off the leader. How much is 3 long laps worth? I mean, he probably gained a second off the start with the jump start, but 3 long laps worth what? 1.5, 2 seconds each, I want to say. It's different at every circuit, isn't it? So I don't know. Maybe it's 2 seconds each, 6 seconds. But let's talk. And now the main talking point here, other than the fantastic, incredible performance from Aron Canet, is Jake Dixon. Because, I mean, to start with, it seemed during the race he was just up against it. It was late moves coming in on him everywhere, and it really unsettled his tempo. And then the fact that it seemed like the Bosco-Skouras chassis just weren't there, you know? And so he was leading Bosco-Skouras and really putting up a fight that you think when you look at where the other ones were, he was actually giving quite a good performance. But I don't know if it was just like the frustration of not being able to keep up. He's pushing too hard. He's ended up crashing. Really could have just used banking 8 or 9 points there, you know, for the championship. Because Aron Canet looks incredible. Looks back to the back end of last season, doesn't it? If he keeps that up, he will be your world champion. There's no doubt. But the problem they have is, like, where's Manu Gonzalez in all this? Because, again, pace looked good. It leaves him 10 points back in the championship, again, after they messed up in America. All they had to do was just bank the points in the US, and he's leading the world championship now. So is Manu maybe outright pace still your quickest? But do you think over race distances and experience and running at the front and now knowing how to be a race winner, Aron Canet, is he your favourite with a 10-point buffer now? So, yeah, Moto 2, really good race again. This was really fun. I thought this was a really fun race. Helped along by the fact that if Dennis Onchu gets to the front early, I mean, the stuff's going to happen, right? So that was a good time. Now we're finally there. Let's go get to MotoGP. So much going on. So much going on. I mean, it goes without saying, Marc Marquez, incredible again at a circuit where he's not won for over 10 years. So I guess, like, what does that mean? It means it's all over. We said it round one in our knee-jerk reactions. It's cooked, mate. It is cooked. He's cooked. It's absolutely cooked. God, how disheartening for Pecco. How disheartening. This was the one where it was like, look, I'm going to have to do it here. If I'm going to put any pressure at all on him, I've got to do it here. He's messed up in qualifying. He's ended up like 11th or wherever the hell he started. It was game over. And now you can argue that maybe if Pecco started on the front row and he got away, Marc just took a while to settle in that one. Morbidelli got away at the front. You have to think maybe if Pecco gets away with Morbidelli at the front, gets himself a second and a half, can he manage that? Perhaps that is the story we could have been telling. Where you can argue against that is Marc's late race pace was so he managed it so well. His late race pace was so good that would he have kept enough in the bank that those last sort of 4 or 5 laps, he could have gone bang, 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 dropped the hammer, made the overtake, won the race. I think that probably is more likely the story would have been telling. Even if Pecco had got away with Morbidelli, dropped to Morbidelli, kept that second and a half to Marc till about 3-4 laps ago, I think Marc can drop the hammer there. Maybe not 3-4 laps. So maybe he would have had to start going a bit earlier to close that gap and make the pass. But you have to think with Marc's pace late on was so devastatingly good. But then again, if you've got someone with you, maybe you can scrap with them a bit. Maybe you can change their pace, unsettle them a bit. Who knows what would have happened in that scenario? We can't know. But my instinct tells me Marc still wins that. Even if Pecco gets the front row start, gets away with Frankie and drops him and keeps the pace. But I talk about Frankie, another great result for him. He's been classified as third position. We'll get into the Vinales stuff, don't worry. So another podium for him. He's looking very consistent, very strong. Gave himself a chance to win the race, which is what you like to see. Just give yourself a chance to win the race. Maybe you can argue it was he could have finished closer to the front had he not tried to do that early. But look, just give it a go. Get yourself out there, give it a go. Like Mav, get out there, give yourself a chance. Maybe you can keep the pace. You don't know. But what you can't do is just sit 4th, 5th all day and be like, well, I'll come good at the end and come 4th. Great. But yeah, another podium for him. Really strong start to the season. Johann Zarco. We're going to get into Zarco in the All Japan Cup. It's just forcing himself into the factory squad here. Like making it undeniable that he is the man at Honda. Another great result. Finale de Geer's finding his feet. Now, this is what I thought was going to happen at the start of the season. I maybe was a bit of a misjudgment to think that I thought he was going to be on Alex's level this season, because Alex still clear in a way is probably the second most impressive guy in the field at the moment. But Finale de Geer, it's taken 2 races to just be a little bit shit. And then now he's just like, he looks confident. He's like, well, this Ducati is amazing. He's starting to feel it. He's starting to get into it. And a top 5 for him there. Great result. Let's get into the tire pressure thing now with Maverick. Maverick was absolutely sensational. Now, Mav has this in him, doesn't he? He's got this in the locker. Sometimes he doesn't open his locker very often. He goes to school with his bags in his backpack and doesn't really go to his locker. And the bags in his backpack sometimes don't really give him the information he needs. He's just like, he's going to fail that test, And he spends most of the year doing that. But once or twice a year, he'll go to his locker and be like, oh shit, that's where I put that textbook. Fuck. I actually needed that. That's why I didn't study properly. That's why I didn't get a good score on that test. I hope you're following along with the metaphor here. Basically what I'm saying is he's pretty average a lot of the time. And then every now and then he's fucking brilliant. And he does something like this. But he's only got it in him once a year, maybe twice. 1 or 2 times a year. He is one of the best riders in the field. The rest of the time, he's probably like the 13th best rider in the field, I guess. I'm not talking about finishing position. I'm talking about like ability. So what happened? And what do I think about this? Now, we all know about the tire pressure thing. I don't think it goes without saying now that it's an odd thing that they've allowed to happen, both MotoGP and Michelin. I get these things aren't easy. I've discussed this in the past in another post-race after one of these things has happened before. And I appreciate that these things are quite technical. Rubber is a technical and possibly sometimes hard to understand like compound. Maybe it's not that easy to just be like, make the tire not have this issue so that we don't have to have a rule where if it drops below a certain bar of pressure, we have to punish the riders because it's so unsafe to be below that bar that we don't want them doing it? Is it a hard problem to fix? I mean, it must be. Otherwise, I would have fixed it by now. Or is it like the tyre we start the year with, we have to basically continue to use that tyre, which means we just have to make a rule that this rule, right? You understand what I'm saying. At least I hope you do. The Batmav here, they've obviously set his pressures for him to be buried some. I mean, to be fair, he qualified pretty well. So there was a chance that maybe he could have poked his nose into this sort of lead group for maybe a few laps. But generally, the wisdom of the team, you would suggest that he was probably going to be sitting in behind a few riders at least. Probably, I mean, he's a notoriously bad starter. You'd probably think from 6th on the grid, is he going to end up, after the first lap, maybe 10th? If you're being generous, 7th or 8th with him, because like I said, he just doesn't get off the line a lot of the time. He's got off the line well. He's held his position pretty much from memory. I want to say he's held position in around there. And then he started to bloody chug along, didn't he? And he probably was sitting there thinking like, why are these going so slow? I think a little bit of that was because you saw Morbidelli go at the front. I thought a lot of it was management from Marquez in second, managing so he could have that explosion of pace at the end of the race. So I feel like he was managing, which sort of backed him up a bit. And when Mav just was like ticking the laps off, I probably thought like, how am I catching Marquez here? And just thought, I'll just keep going. Fair enough. Because for me, this just means that if you are on a bike or you're a rider, that usually you are sitting in the pack a little bit. So you set your tyre pressures accordingly. Then does this just mean that if you do just by some element of chance get in a situation where you feel good, you feel like you can get to the front of a group and push along and try and win a race, like just try. Does that mean there's like no point in even trying? Because if you're going to get to the front, you're going to sit there and go, I'm not set for this. We're not set for this, lads. I'm going to have to drop back in to 4th place, sit there all race, and then hopefully at the end I can try and make up a couple of positions. But the idea of winning it, like getting out in front and checking away, giving yourself a chance to do that, there's no point because you're going to fall foul of the ruling. The lesson is sit in the pack, take your medicine. You're not supposed to be there, mate. Get back in your lane. You're supposed to be in 7th, mate. Get out. Let us big boys who set our tyre pressures accordingly get to the front. We'll have this, mate.
The lesson is never try.
Basically just means that no one else can, unless you're one of these guys, like if you're on a Ducati, you might set accordingly because you might find that you think we might get to the front at some point. We're on a Ducati, we're probably going to be running in the top 5 or 6. Mark could crash, whatever. But if you are like on a KTM or a Yamaha or a Honda, even the Aprilias now, like anyone else basically, are you just going to have to sit there and be like, well, we didn't expect to be here and now I can't win this race because if I win it and have my tyres in clean air the whole race, I'm just going to get done for tyre pressures. So there's no point. I'm just sitting 4th and the last couple of laps I'll try and overtake a couple of people. But by that point, Mark's gone. He's gone. You can't win anymore. No point trying. Don't try. You will fail. So is that where we're at? Have we set up a system here where only the big teams can win, only the big riders can win because there's a chance that they will have set their tyre pressures differently to the guys who are expecting to be in the pack. And if you've set your tyre pressure expecting to be in the pack and you get to the front, you're going to get disqualified anyway or time penalty. Vinales ends up 14th after finishing 2nd on the road. I'm sorry, if I'm Pecco here, just let him go home with the trophy. You don't have to, like, mate, I'll have a second, give me the trophy. Just let him go home with the trophy. He was the second best guy that day. And on bike ability, bike comparison, is he the best guy on the day? Probably. Now, on the flip side, if you are one of these guys like Maverick in this situation, I just think to myself, would I give a shit if it's like I could come 5th and because I've set my tyre pressures that way, so I won't go to the front. Would he have had to have done a Marc in Thailand, drop him behind Marc, try and stay with him, and then try and pass him at the end? I guess, but then Mark's going to beat you in that situation, isn't he? So you're not really giving yourself the best chance to win. I think the best thing to do if you're any of these guys all year is just try and win the race, go for glory, get done for tyre pressures, lose 16 seconds and come like 15th. Who cares? Because you'll always be able to turn around and say, look how good I was that day. Look how good I almost won that race. or I won that race. Just go for it if you're one of these guys. Just get to the front. And you know what? Every cloud, right? Does this help KTM in their concession bid to keep like they'll end up with good concessions if they don't score too many points. So, maybe it's worked out. I know you'd rather have the podium. I know how it works. These guys work hard all year, and one chance to get a podium maybe all season, and it's gone in the bin. But, what was it Ralph Fernandez said that year when Remy beat him? The moral champion. You're the moral podium this week. You can always go back and be like, look, the record books don't show it, but let's go back and watch the race, shall we? Let me know what you guys think. Would you, even if you're getting like an alert being like your tire pressures are, too low or whatever, would you be like, I'm cracking on? Because I'm going to, if I win this and they dock me all these, time, like, yeah, I'm still going to be able to turn around. I'm going to tell people I won that race. Like, I don't care. Just go for glory, I think. Anyway, so let's talk about the All Japan Cup. We spoke about Zarco, and now that we're talking about the All Japan Cup, we're going to call him Johann Zarco. Johann Zarco. Sorry if I've offended any Japanese people there. Jesus. Johann Zarco has won the All Japan Cup for the third time out of 4 races this season. This is like better than Fabio last season, who was a runaway champion, by the way. Crazy stuff. He's absolutely loving life on a Castrol LCR Honda. I mean, not as much love, I'm assuming, as running at the front as like a Ducati rider, but it's as good as it gets, really. This is as good as it gets. First of all, you're absolutely putting away your factory teammates here. Just dispatching them at every opportunity. Mir, go. Marini, get lost. Although I think Marini is having a pretty, like, if you're looking for a guy to just get in a team and just be consistent and bring the bike home, he's brilliant for that. Just dispatching, and then like you've just been given a teammate like Chantra where you're like, well, absolutely gonna brain him, aren't you? So it's all looking great for him. He's just undeniably going to be in the factory team next year. I think Marini's gone. I think they go to a Zarco Mir next season. And then beyond that, rumours of a top rack Pedro combination or either or. Maybe, rumours are swirling, but exciting times. But Zarco at least going to get himself 1 year in the factory Honda. What a career he's had. Bizarre in many ways, but fun. What a cool career. The journeyman. Well, there's loads of journeymen at the moment actually in there, so I can't call him the only journeyman. But is it a French thing? I didn't want to be too cliche, but aging like a fine French wine. Fantastic stuff. He's won the All Japan Cup this weekend. Second Fabio, as we mentioned him just now, had a really good weekend. Got caught up in a little bit on Sunday, meaning that he didn't quite do what we thought he was going to do. I actually was in a position, I thought he was going to be more likely to be a podium contender than, Maverick or Zarco this weekend. And he had a really good sprint, except for a mistake at the last corner defending, which cost him a position. So he's finished 5th in the sprint and 7th in the Grand Prix. And what's promising for Fabio, he's had such a good weekend where you look at 7th in the Grand Prix and you think, I expected more, which is a really promising sign. And I still think he is the man. And I think as the season goes on, if Yamaha start to find a little bit, I think Zarco and him is going to be a great battle for the All Japan Cup. Although he is already 17 points behind. So, we mentioned Marini with his consistency. He's finished 3rd in the All Japan Cup. Rins 4th. Chantra 5th. And then we had DNFs for Augusto Fernandez, Joan Mir and Jack Miller. So, the All Japan Cup standings. Johann Zarco, 30 points. Jack Miller, 18. Luca Marini, 18. It's that consistency. Luca Marini finishes every bloody race. Don't worry about him. He's the kind of guy every team could use every now and then. Fabio Quartararo, 13 points. Rins, 10 points. Mir, 6. Mir needs to finish more races. And I know that here this weekend he's had a tough weekend because is it injury or sickness? I wasn't really keeping up with it in the run into the Grand Prix. But he's missed the sprint to try and get himself more recovery time. And then in the race here, he's DNF. I don't know if did he crash or did he just like, I'm tired and park it? I didn't see that during the race. So let me know. I don't know actually what happened to him. Jack Miller crashed. He had a tough weekend. Another one his was illness, I think. He was a bit ill throughout the weekend. and they sort of, I think, took a couple of risks with tyre strategies, which didn't pay off. I think just in a bid to give him some kind of an advantage, because he wasn't feeling great, and a bit of a write-off weekend for him. I think he'll be strong again when we get to the next one. But yeah, Miguel Oliveira, still 3 points. We're still waiting for him to come back. Somcat Chantra goes to 3 points. Augusto Fernandez stays on 2 points. And when are we going to get our next wildcards for Honda or Yamaha? I can't wait to include more riders in this. Johan Zarco, 30 points out of a possible 40 in the All Japan Cup. Unreal scenes. Let's talk MotoGP Fantasy, shall we? Because it was an interesting one. A lot of people, myself included, seeing the opportunity to maybe go, this is Bagnaia, where he starts to wind up. Risky subbing out Alex Marquez at this point with his form, but it's worked out. Just worked out, because Alex had a tough weekend. And, we didn't really go into it. So actually, let's do that now. It's interesting because I thought Digi maybe could have had a say. Bit of a butterfly effect moment, actually. Could have had a say. I mean, both of them. Alex is in such good form. Digi starting to find form. On the factory spec bike, don't forget. I think both of them could have had... It's really changed the way that this race has played out. Both of them could have had a say at the end. Maybe if them two were still in the race, they would have caught up and gone past Maverick, maybe, because they do have excellent pace. And then his time pressures maybe would have fallen back in line. Who knows what could have happened? Real butterfly effect moment in the race with Alex. And look, honest mistake from it looked like. He just looked to make a lunge up the inside, released the brake a little bit, or went to brake a bit later, and just got his angles wrong because clipped the side of Digi and sent him way off. Decisive action from the stewards, which I like to see. Not too harsh, not too lenient. Right in the zone, because it's a penalty. It has cost you, like I said, what does it work out to? 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds? I don't know what you lose in the long lap at Qatar. He's ended up finishing 6th. I think that's about right. I know that with Digi, it's cost him a potential top 5, top 4 podium maybe. So it's like, should it be harsher? But I don't like this, like, he's finished 16th in the end, so we need to make the punishment so harsh that you would finish around it. No, look, he's made a mistake. He got punished. We move on. But yeah, fantasy. I did sub out. I'll put it here for you. I did sub out Alex for Pecco. And the good thing about Pecco, I know he struggled. I was panicking after Saturday. I was like, what a stupid decision that was. But there is always the chance on a Sunday with Pecco at Qatar. He's probably not going to win the race from there, but he's probably going to finish like top 3, and he has, which means good points for top 3, excellent points for progression. So every time for positions gained, you do score extra points. So there was always a chance he was going to score loads of points. Got benefited hugely from the Vinales stuff. And he scored 40 points for the weekend, and Alex scored 28. So I'm glad I made that change. I was panicking after Saturday, I've got to say. But Mark, again, I'm sure not many people would have boosted him this week. It would have been a brave move because of all the talk about Pecco being like, this is the one he's going to have to, lift his game at and all that rubbish. But you would have cleaned up if you had of. Now, anyone who's held on to Fermin as like your silver rider, you're starting to reap the benefits now. He's going to start coming good. He had a great weekend, 26 points. Struggling a little bit with Ayagura, but he's still there or thereabouts. And what I did was, to get Pecco in, I switched my team from Ducati factory team to VR46, which could have worked out a lot better if Digi hadn't plummeted through the field. So I wonder, I haven't done the maths on it, would I have scored more by keeping it as it was? Probably not. How much did Alex score? I think I've worked out better off. I can't be asked doing that. I'm not going to sit here and I don't care. Right, so where does that leave us? Let's go look at I dropped in almost every league this week. But let's have a look. We're at 123 plays. We've picked up plays. That's great. And let's see how it looks. One of the favourites of the channel, Kiss My Assen, is in the lead. No boost left. But it's a good lead, so it maybe doesn't matter. But the top 3 or 4, we're all still about there. If you have a look there, let me see if you can see yourself on there. A few, I think maybe we've had someone drop out. Leighton, you've dropped out, mate. You've dropped out. I've had plenty of comments this week. I haven't got back to anyone, to be honest. I've been away on holidays over the last, I was away in Poland for about, 6 days. And when I got back, just couldn't be, back to work and all that. I will try and reply soon. But a lot of you letting me know, I did read them. A lot of you letting me know about what you have and haven't done and what you thought about my changes. So thanks for that. I take it all on board. And like I said, I usually do reply, but this week I was just busy. All right, so that's how we stand at the end of another round of MotoGP. We are, of course, into the European season now. We've got a week off. We're going to be back at the end of April. Jerez, what do I need to say about Jerez? One of the great events. So we look forward to that. And then we're into the European season. I've got to say, still my favorite part of the year. The old traditional European circuits. I really do love it. The European leg, and then the kind of like Southeast Australasia Pacific leg of, Japan, a couple of Southeast Asian ones like Malaysia and Indonesia, or it used to be Thailand maybe, and Australia. That's my second favorite leg. Let's have it. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Goodbye.